Tim Duncan, I met Tim when he first got to San Antonio. And I was there when they made him carry the bags. He was a rookie, and the veterans made him carry bags. And I went to dinner with him, and I realized he was really funny, really interesting, had all of these tattoos. He loved collecting knives. Like, you just never... With Tim Duncan, you go, yeah, a great player, but we don't know much about him. I found that he had a great sense of humor. And he was so driven at one point. He wanted to find out when ESPN did the 50 greatest athletes of all time. And he kept badgering me because I was hosting the show. He goes, you got to tell me. Like, is Jordan one? Is Jordan number one? I said, I can't tell you. And at the time, I didn't know. And I said, win the title, and I'll tell you. He won the title. Comes in after they won the title. First thing he says, is Jordan number one? And I said, yes. And he goes, okay, thank you. And it was just, he just was a fun person to be around. But he never wanted to share any of that. We tried to get him on the show a variety of times. He just didn't want it. He didn't care about it. He never cared about it. And even now, I think if he probably campaigned a little bit more when he was playing, he might be a top 5 player of all time. Maybe even higher. He just didn't care. His competitiveness was never on display. It was there. He just didn't show it like Kevin Garnett. He didn't show it like Kobe. But it was there. And what a prideful person. But his speech was the fact that he didn't write it down. Everybody else had speeches on teleprompters. Tim just went up there and talked. I'm surprised he got dressed up. Like, Tim is just a bigger version of Barry Sanders, where you just go, they're different. They're just different. You know, a taller version of John Stockton. They just played. They didn't ask for anything, but they gave you everything. And there was something poignant about how the people who mean so much to him. Popovich went to visit him in the Virgin Islands. And Tim thought that that was normal. And it wasn't. Popovich wanted to know Tim, wanted to know his family, really wanted to know who he was, what he was all about. And they developed that great relationship. So that was great. That was great to hear. It's fun hearing the stories. It's great seeing those Hall of Famers be able to come back. But a wonderful weekend. Yeah, Seton.
I like that Tim Duncan goes, if you added both of my parents together, there would still be zero basketball knowledge. They have nothing.
He was a swimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, at Wake Forest, it's like, okay, well, that guy at Wake Forest seems like he's pretty good, but he was at Wake Forest. If he was in Kentucky, you'd go, oh my God, that guy's he's the best player I've seen. It was like there was something, well, he's at Wake Forest. But Tim Duncan had that competitive drive, but it was always like it was always hidden. But you can make a case. He deserves to be recognized as one of the 2 or 3 greatest players of all time. Consistency, winning titles, offense, defense. He did everything you wanted. He just did it quietly in a town that suited his personality. Had he played on a bigger stage, had he played in New York, had he played in L.A., we would remember Tim Duncan differently. I truly believe that. If he's winning titles, there would be a statue at Staples. If he was winning titles in New York, there'd be a statue. He's in San Antonio. Tim couldn't care less about how he's honored or have a statue there. Yeah, Paul.
It's also so weird how he ended up in San Antonio. The 95-96 Spurs with David Robinson and Popovich, before Tim Duncan got there, were 59-23. They're first in the Midwestern Division. They're great. Back injury to Tim Duncan, They finished 6th in the next season. They were 20-62. They get deep in the playoff lottery. They get Tim Duncan. First year with Tim Duncan, they're right back on top, winning 56 games.
Well, I think that it might have been encouraged for David Robinson to not play those final games of the regular season when he came back with his back injury.
Yep.
And then they win the lottery. That's when Rick Pitino thought, hey, I'm coaching the Celtics and we're getting Tim Duncan and I am set for the next decade or so. And it didn't happen, obviously. Yes, McLevin?
I wonder, though, with his style of play, I mean, it was boring. Let's face it. His greatest moments were 12-foot bank shots. He just was not a highlight player.
You're right.
So with how that, but if he was in L.A., would the L.A.-ness have overwhelmed that and he'd be a bigger name? I'm not sure because he was so low-keyed.
But he couldn't have been anybody but himself. I don't think where he went, I don't think, San Antonio made him that. That's who he is. If you're around him, he is chill. He is mellow. He steps on the floor. Avery Johnson and Vinny Del Negro would tell me, don't let Tim fool you. Like he has a temper. He's competitive. And he's got 5 titles. He was an all-star, 15 times, I'm guessing? Offensively, first, second, third team, all defense? How many times? First, second team, third team, regular NBA, regular season, like all-star. It's just he wasn't exciting. And I had a conversation with his former teammate a couple of weeks ago, Matt Bonner. And he said, look, Tim's one of the 5 greatest players of all time. Now, he's obviously territorial here. And you start to look at it, and you could make a case that Tim Duncan is one of the top 5 players of all time. It just, there's no moment where you go, wow, did you see what Duncan did? It's one of those where you look at the box score afterwards and you go, golly. Like he had 25, 15, 5 blocks, 4 assists. I know he played with great players. Nobody knew Tony Parker was a great player. Nobody knew Manu was a great player. We knew David Robinson was. We didn't know how good Greg Popovich was as a coach. It just kind of came together. But it helps when your star player falls in line with what the coach wants everybody to do. And he would yell at Tim. Yes, McLevin.
I have, the all-time ESPN list. That was a big deal 2 years ago. Tim is 8 on there, right ahead of Larry Bird and Larry Bird's 7 and Kobe's 9. So he's sandwiched at 8, which is not far off the top 5.
But he's got 5 titles. He has 3 MVPs in the finals. He's got 2 MVPs during the regular season. 15-time All-Star. 10-time first team. 8 times first team all defense. 7 times second team all defense. So 15 years, he was first or second all defense. He was rookie of the year. I mean, that's a decorated resume there.
But who could you possibly knock out of the top 5? These are like Russell, Chamberlain, Magic, Bird, Jordan kind of names.
Well, you have Russell and Chamberlain, and that's a different era. Because, I get into this argument, and I hate doing it. Bill Russell's the most decorated. Does that make him one of the top 5 players? Wilt won a title. Got a ton of scoring. He's got, you almost have to start this in the 70s or maybe the 80s, just to be fair to those players, because Oscar's in there as well. It was just a different game. But I think that's when you talk, about generational, is Tim Duncan there with Michael Jordan? And the answer is yes, he is. His resume is every bit. He won 5 titles, 3 times the MVP in the finals. Where do you find fault? Just because he didn't give you a highlight. That's really it. If Tim Duncan had a couple of Vince Carter highlights, Tracy McGrady highlights, took down a backboard one time. Like Garnett was in your face. He was there. Like you knew Garnett was on the floor. Tim, you could tune in and go, who's the best player on the floor? And it might take you a little while before you realize that it was Tim Duncan. Because Ginobili was far more exciting. Parker was far more exciting. The Admiral was far more exciting. But Tim played in accordance to his personality. There was fire, but it was never on the surface. Yeah, Paul.
This is a very weird stat. Stay with me on this. Tim Duncan is the 15th leading scorer in NBA history. He's the 6th leading rebounder in NBA history. He's the 5th all-time in block shots. He never led the league in any category ever for a season. He was never the leading scorer in the league. He was never the leading block guy. He was never the leading rebound guy. In his entire career, he never led the league in any of those categories. But he's one of the few people who's top 15 in all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, McLovin.
Would you buy this? That you know who the antithesis of him is? Shaq, who did everything with such bravado, and he was in Superman movies, and he got all the attention. Regardless of how you compare them as players, just like sort of persona-wise, Shaq was just such a big persona.
Yeah. Well, just his presence when you saw him on the floor, and then the style that he played, just the physicality, dunking. He was very expressive. For a guy named Duncan, how many dunks did Tim have in his career? Because he just, I just don't remember him, doing some violent dunk on somebody, posterizing somebody. His name should be Tim, Layup, or, Tim Bankshot, not Tim Duncan. If you could choose, you start your team with Kobe, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett. And I'm going to give you these guys for 15 years. It's hard not to take Tim Duncan. It is. I mean, I would say Kobe. Man. Yes.
Kobe is the next best thing to Michael Jordan.
Yes.
You got to start with Kobe.
You don't have to. I mean, okay.
Just
I'm
give
getting
my opinion. Like
okay, I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't mean to yell at you. My bad. Yeah. You get your hair cut and you look like you're about 13.
Just trying to give my opinion like I'm supposed to.
Kobe will give you excitement every night, sell some tickets. Tim would not. Tim will make you money when you get to the postseason. But then Kobe won. Kobe won titles, 5 titles. Yes, McLovin.
What year are we talking about? Like when they both came in the league or now? Because I don't know. They're not 20, 21 players. Kobe probably could have been, but no, now centers are a little less valuable.
Yes, if you're talking about today's NBA, then you're probably looking, say, anybody else on that list. Although Kobe could have become, a dangerous three-point shooter.
Maybe Duncan becomes a Joker type who moves outside a little more.
Yeah, I could see that. KG had a little bit of range. He's not Kevin Garnett or Kevin Durant. Yeah, Paulie.
I'm going with Kobe on this list, not shockingly, but, Garnett had a run where in the middle of his career between like 24 and 30, he's averaging like 24, 14, 5, and 2.
Yeah.
2 steals, 2 blocks, 5 assists, 13 and a half rebounds, 24 points. He had everything.
But he was doing that for a bad team.
Yeah. They're pumped up numbers.
They are.
But, man, he was doing it.
Tim was doing it in big games. Like all of those games with the Spurs, they were important games.